Now, beloved within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, beloved within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, this is a very urgent message, a very urgent message called the but if not generation and the form of the fourth. The but if not generation and the form of the fourth. It was on the plains of Dura that there was a big, massive golden image that went very high all the way to the top. And all the people were commanded to come there in all different sounds of music and worship this golden image and pray to it and not be cast into the fiery furnace. And all the people, beloved, within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, bowed down to worship this golden image because King Nebuchadnezzar had commanded it. He had commanded it, beloved. And he was the king, and they lived in a monarchy, not in a democracy. And it was sort of like a monarchical dictatorship, like what Cuba did under Fidel Castro, and combined with the monarchy like in his time. And so that's why they did that. And on the plains of Dura, there was 3 young men that Nebuchadnezzar just promoted in his kingdom. They're actually slaves from another nation. And these 3 worthies, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, as their Babylonian names are called, but Azariah, Hananiah, and Mishael, as their Jewish names are called, were actually Christian patriarchs, as this is why I called them in Prophets and Kings. They were the type of men that knew what God had said about Babylon, knew it's the end of its demise, knew its beginning, and knew that their nation was in captivity for rebellion against God's will, and knew that one day, even though Babylon was used to destroy the nations, would be judged by God for being in rebellion themselves. So they saw the future, they understood the future, and it was actually their friend Daniel who interpreted that dream to the king. Because actually the king Nebuchadnezzar, he actually saw a vision of a golden metallic image. Its head of gold, its belly of brass, its chest of silver, and its legs of iron, its feet part of iron, part of clay. And he didn't understand the vision, and he tried to kill all his wise men because of the vision. But Daniel told him that meant that his nation would be first in the glory of the nations, but that his nation one day pass off the scene. And the false priests, once they found out the dream, puffed up Nebuchadnezzar's head and made it appear that his nation will be indestructible and will last forever. And you see, Nebuchadnezzar had a big sense of pride, a big sense of ego, beloved, in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He thought that he could keep his kingdom forever by oppressing his subjects, by teaching and believing in false prophecy, and by worshiping in idolatry. You see, he was an idolater from the beginning. He was raised in idolatry. So God understood why it took him a little longer to acknowledge his supremacy, because he was raised in idolatry. God is not going to give us that time, because we as Seventh-day Adventist Christians, we're raised in the mess. We're raised in truth. We have the Sabbath quarterly. We go to church. We hear the Bible and the Spirit of prophecy being taught on a constant basis. We're educated to the truths for these last days. We know the truth. We're God's people. We're God's remnant people. It's remnant people. But beloved in the Adventist Church, Nebuchadnezzar thought he could reinvent the will, reinvent prophecy. That's why he did that. Now, beloved, in the Adventist church, the reason why this sermon is titled The But If Not Generation in the form of the fourth, because in this sermon, I'll be addressing the generation that says, but if not, to compromise in apostasy and sin, and has Christ in the furnaces of their affliction with them and throughout all their trials, and delivers them. Let us pray. Most kind, gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for all wonderful mercies and blessings. Please speak through me to your people, and let them be blessed. In Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen. Now, beloved, within the Adventist church, we have a lot of compromises in the church today in the world. Things like smoking marijuana, homosexuality, fornication, adultery, masturbation, pornography. Things like Sabbath breaking, buying a Sunday Sabbath, for instance, or going out to movies on Friday, even Friday night these days, not just Saturday night. Cooking on the Sabbath, cleaning on the Sabbath. A lot of compromises. And beloved, our church is allowing train rides for youth at church during right before the service starts. They have fun games for youth on the Sabbath, beloved. And the elders are endorsing it. They're bowing down to this image, this great image, the same way the elders bowed down to it on the plains of Dura in Nebuchadnezzar's time. And beloved, even with David House, as Pastor David House, rebuked a group of people that he was working with a church as a Bible worker for Sabbath irreverence, allowing kids to run and act irreverent in church at this Caucasian church he worked at, and they called the cops on David House simply for trying to correct things in the church, beloved. They were trying to hire him as a Bible worker in that church. So that's an example of the elders bowing down to man-made traditions, the commandments of men, traditions of men, and persecuting youth with a vision that would stand for principles already found in the Bible and in the testimonies. They pay the Bible and the testimonies a lot of lip service, but at the end of the day, they only follow the traditions of men based off of cultural norms and based off of the laws of the country on those issues at that time, or the popular vote. Now, beloved, in the Adventist church, Shadrach, Meshach, and that bad Negro, y'all said it, that bad Negro, Abednego, were questioned on the plains of Dura, saying, if you see this image rising up, and you see the music being played, you'll prosper in my kingdom. You won't be put into the burning fire furnace. I'll exalt you. I will exalt you, O Shadrach, Meshach, and that bad Negro, Abednego. Like they said to Daniel, you won't go into the lion's den if you pray to a man and not to God. So that was the challenge of their era, of the three Hebrew worthies era, and of Daniel's era later on in years in the reign of Cyrus, Median, and Medo-Persia. And beloved in the Adventist church, the question for us is the same question that the Hebrew boys had on the plains of Dura. Do you not serve my gods? The worship, the golden images I have set up, jewelry, celebration style worship, marijuana smoking, homosexuality, shacking up with adultery, spiritism in our schools like Harry Potter, new theology, sin new theology in our religion departments, ecumenicalism within our schools, teaching that you're once saved, never lost in our religion departments, teachings that fiction is okay. It's okay to dwell upon things that aren't true, that aren't real, things that are just get the mind emotional to worldliness. See, that's the attitude of many of our Seventh-day Adventist institutions. They're not preparing a people to stand true to God throughout the investigative judgment, judge of the dead and the living. They're preparing people to do careers, to think very postmodernistically, to engage in worldly behavior, but not people that will call people out of Babylon for this last hour. In Brookstead, it may have been more like that, where in our schools like Oakland University, they really trained our men to really be serious about God's word and do ministry and finish the work. But in our era, for training men to bring in worldly cultural norms, to accept worldly cultural norms, such as homosexuality, like Danny Shelton mentioned in his last sermon, about the cultural norm of homosexuality, how Loma Linda, one of our schools in California, our medical school in California, has made a statement saying, let's celebrate lesbian, gay or homosexual men lifestyle, gay, bisexual men, and men with men and men with women, and vice versa. Let's celebrate them, he said. If he said about Loma Linda, said this, made this statement clear. And let's, and the point he brought out was, should we start endorsing murder as celebration? Because that's a sin. So we start endorsing adultery. That's a sin. So we start endorsing witchcraft, because that's a sin. And so when we bow to cultural norms because it's popular, and because we don't want to be called the bigot, we don't want people to talk about us. We don't want to be lambasted or put out on Front Street or our name get outcast. And we want to be able to preach in this church and that church and be good with this pastor and that pastor. We want our face in the magazine, just like Pastor Enrique said in one of his sermons. Are we really being self-denying? Are we really following the yoke of Christ? The yoke of the church is not always at times the yoke of God. The yoke of God says, my burden is easy, my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Acts 5:32 says you get the Holy Spirit when you obey God's 10 commandments. So It's not just the commandments in the New Testament, loving your neighbor as yourself. It's also the first four. The first four deals with your relationship to God. And the last six deals with your relationship to man. Many Christians today teach just worry about your relationship to man, hospitality. There are many Christians out here, like the Mormons and the Catholics. They believe in loving their neighbor, but not in loving God. They break the fourth commandment every week to keep Sunday holy. Like Pope Francis, and who's a Jesuit, by the way. In fact, this is why it says the Jesuits. Yes, I said it. I said their name. She says they're very hospitable. They, give money to feed the hungry and the homeless, and they do a lot of good deeds to the poor. But they teach that they're God, like every Catholic Pope does. They teach that virtue is better than vice, like the new theologians teach in our church today, Cinema Church today. But God being removed, Sister Wire says in Selected Message Book 1, Foundation from Our Faith, is going to supersede the structure. And judges particularly are trying to undo all that Protestantism has done, beloved. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to do what all that Protestantism has done. They're protesting. Martin Luther protested papal infallibility. He said, no, the Bible is my conscience. The King James Version Bible is my conscience. And actually, my conscience is inspired by understanding of the King James Version Bible, not a man. A man can't tell me how to live my life. The Word of God tells me how to live my life. That's a beautiful principle Martin Luther brought to the Christian Protestant Reformation, and that's the same thing that the three worthies were saying. They're the but if not generation. They said, you know what, O King Nebuchadnezzar, our God is able to deliver us out of your hands. But if not, who will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. And to me, what that says is they were one of the early Protestants. The worthies on the plains of Dur were early Protestants. They were saying, we know we're in a high position here over in Babylon. We know we're captive slaves from a despised race and despised nation. But we're going to protest and die. We're not going to eat the king's meat nor the wine which he drank. And we're not going to serve his gods. We're going to keep the 7-day Sabbath holy, and we're not going to bow down to images. We're going to bow down to the Lord our God. And just like the New Testament said, when you pray, he stated in the Word, it says, go into your closet and pray. When you fast, tell no one that you're fasting. So, yes, those are good principles of truth. I see right there. But the reason why I go back into the title of the but if not generation, which I earlier mentioned in this sermon for the prayer as the thesis of this message, was because there's a generation that must stand up against Sunday sacredness. You see, we have something here in our church, the pastor W. Snell at Oakwood University Church supporting. He's in the past at First Church started. He supported Sunday Surge or Sunday Sacredness, and Pastor C. the books of former director of Breath of Life spoke out against it. We see it within the Catholic Church and the evangelical world saying that Sunday is the Bible Sabbath and not the 7 day week from Exodus 28 to 11. We see them making excuses saying, well, Sunday not the Sabbath, they say. The 7 day week is the Sabbath, they say. But let's worship on Sunday, they say, because it's a festive day or because it's tradition. It's not based off a Bible, but it's based off tradition. Since when is tradition ever supplemented for God's word? I mean, doesn't James 1:7 say, to man those who write does not to him in his sin? I mean, doesn't Exodus 28 to 11 say, remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy 6 days after labor, and do all the work with the 7 day Sabbath, Lord thy God. In thou shalt not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that's within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven, earth, the sea, and all that in the midst, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So, and doesn't the Bible say, but if you keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, you're guilty of all. So if you're not committing adultery and you're not lying and stealing and you're not coveting, I mean, isn't it also wrong to violate a day, a commandment, like the fourth commandment, which comes on the Sabbath, sunset Friday, sunset Sabbath, even though it's just of little significance in the minds of many people around the world and in this country. I mean, if it's a day that God commanded, and if God's particular, shouldn't we follow the day God commands us and not worship Pope Francis, the man of sin? I mean, isn't Pope Francis the one that we destroy by the brightness of his coming? If he, well, God, that's if he's alive at that time. But if he's going to remain believing that he's God, I mean, won't he be destroyed by the brightness of God's coming? So, if he's in the office and if he repents before he leaves the office, he can still be saved. But if he's going to teach that he's God and undo the Protestant Reformation and even a lot of our Seventh-day Adventist leaders giving him awards for World Youth Day and patting him on the back and being involved in ecumenical union with the man of sin power, like, isn't that wrong? I mean, what does the Bible say about that? I mean, what would all men shall speak well of you, Jesus said. I mean, doesn't the Bible say, if you love me, keep my commandments? So if we today, which is the but if not generation, decide not to worship Pope Francis and bow down to images like the Catholic Church does, and decide not to break the Sabbath and decide to eat a plant-based diet and decide not to be in worldly music and worldly movies and amusement and new theology, sin theology, or Sunday sacredness, decide not to practice sin in any particular. If we as Seventh-day Adventists decide not to be involved in homosexuality and fornication, adultery, if we as Seventh-day Adventists decide in these last days not to believe in theistic evolution, that the world was created in 6,000 years, and believe that the world was created 6 little days, and for the Sabbath could be kept because the world was generated, and believe the world that we were created in God's image and breathing to his nostrils the breath of life and became a living soul. If we as Seventh-day Adventist Christians believe that, beloved, in the Adventist Church, I mean, aren't we the but if not generation? Does the Bible say, fear God and glory to him, for the hour of judgment has come, and worship him, made the heavens and the seas and the fountains of waters? Revelation 14:6 to 12. I mean, so isn't wrapped up in the first part of the three angels' message, reverencing God and obeying him, or respecting, revering him, and worshiping him only, and not man? I mean, or anything under the earth? I mean, because God, the Lord our God, Exodus 28:11, is a jealous God, judging sinners that don't obey his laws. So, beloved, in the Adventist Church, didn't Jesus say, if you love me, keep my commandments? So a lot of folks say that's not love. You're not talking love because you're talking about obedience and law keeping and judgment for not obeying, and you're a legalist. Didn't Jesus say, if you love me, keep my commandments? So isn't sin, 1 John 3:4 says, whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also law, for sin is a transgression of the law. So if you violate God's fourth commandment or any of his commandments, knowingly, like the commandment that was in this situation, worshiping a golden image, if you violate that commandment, aren't you saying you don't love God, your creator? So, I mean, think with me, beloved. When Pastor Snell came out with a sermon called The Purge this past Sabbath, and said that eating cheese and not drinking caffeine and not dancing and not doing worldly movies and probably the only thing he didn't say quick is not worshiping on Sunday morning, or what do you say? I guess worshiping on Sunday morning, whatever he wants to think it is, which is Sunday surge. Basically, he's saying that's not going to purge you out of the church for the shaking and the sifting. So he's twisting up all the word. He's saying, live as you please, have it as your home. Isn't that saying this is why the minister said they would say this last days? Live as you please, have it as your home. So that's what the ministers are saying. And then he's saying you young people will go over while the older people will die off. That's what he's saying. And a new generation is coming up. He's saying that are the Joshua and Caleb generation living in their sins. So Pastor Snell, he is like Nebuchadnezzar saying to three Hebrew worthies, heat the furnace 7 times hotter. So that's why I call 144,000 that stand faithful, the GYC generation, that stand faithful to God, the principle, to traditional music like such as hymns and spirituals and scripture songs. They believe in a plant-based diet. They believe in traditional Sabbath-keeping principles. They believe in the reforms as the but if not generation. And they're going to be the same generation, beloved, that has the form of the fourth on them. Christ is going to dwell with them in the temple of the most holy place. Dwell with them in the temple of their hearts on this earth first, because our bodies are in the Holy Ghost, and then dwell with them in heaven, in the temple, when the sons and daughters, they're going to have a name better than the sons and daughters, that's going to be on this earth throughout millennia. And they're going to visit all the other worlds, beloved, because they remain faithful to God. Let us pray. Most Congressman, Father, thank you for this day, this Feast of Tabernacles. Thank God, one of mercy and blessing. Thank you that I had the courage to sigh and cry and to Israel her sins on this Feast of Tabernacles. Please let people don't take this sermon in unbalanced ways, saying I'm attacking Pastor Snell or attacking God's church or attacking anybody. I just want to sigh and cry unto Israel her sins so I can receive my seal. I'm asking the souls get the hearts of Christ these last days and not be lost, and that they will take the Bible and this prophecy and the reforms very seriously, because this is why it says, if the brethren would take the reforms seriously, she said, there'd be tenfold more success in their work. In Jesus Christ's name I pray, amen. And not the family.